Hello, student. Now we are starting with research operational research subjects in our session 6 with the title types of research. Uh, in this session, by the end of this session, I'm expected you to be able to describe types of research, define the uses and limitation of each type of research, identify the most appropriate research type for research proposal. But let me make one thing clear. We are going to see the overview of the types of research and the overview of their limitations. Because we can see in our subject, in our session 12, we are going to explain each research type in details. So, I'll go somehow fast in our presentation today, types of research. But I want you to understand the concepts of these types of research and why we call this type of research this and why that is that. Because there are situations that makes a certain type of research to be this and a certain of research to be that. So, type of research can be classified into several categories according to the nature and purpose of the study and the other attributes that we know. The nature of the study can categorize the research into two types, or a purpose of the study can categorize the research into types or other attributes. But in general, the general classification of types of research methods, we say types of research methods can be broadly divided into two, quantitative and qualitative categories. Quantitative and qualitative categories. Quantitative research, when someone says quantitative research, what should come into your mind is someone tries to describe or to infer and resolve problem using numbers. Emphasis is placed on the collection of numerical data, the summary of those data, and the drawing of inference from the data. In this quantitative research, the presentation is in mathematical or statistical. They use number in data presentation and in everything in giving the result of the research which has been done. Why are we saying this? For example, you want to know a certain problem has appeared. You don't know how many have been affected and how many are not affected. Then from there, from your observation, you may come and do your presentation. At the first analysis, when you want to do your research, people are affected. It's about 90% of the affected are children, or 10% of the affected are youth, and 100% of the elders are the age of 35 and above. They are not affected. I get it. That is your data presentation, but the presentation is numerical, so we call it a quantitative research. Let's go to qualitative research. On the other end, it's based on words, feelings, emotional, sounds, and other non-numerical and unquantifiable elements. It has been noted that information is considered qualitative in nature if it cannot be analyzed by means of mathematical techniques. Not this. It has been noted that information is considered a qualitative in nature if it cannot be analyzed by means of mathematical techniques. These characteristics may also mean that an accident does not place often enough to allow reliable data to be collected. These characteristics may also mean that an incident does not take place often enough to allow reliable data to be collected. Types of research methods according to nature of the study, because we said other attributes, nature of the study and purpose of the study. So let's see types of research methods according to nature of the study. As we said, basically or generally, we may categorize them into main two types: qualitative and quantitative. And these types of research methods according to the nature of the study. Types of the research method according to the nature of study can be divided into 3 groups. And these 3 groups, we have descriptive, we have analytical, and we have experimental or interventional studies. Descriptive research usually involves surveys and studies that aim to identify the fact. In other words, descriptive research mainly deals with description of the state of affairs as it is at present, and there is no control of a variable in descriptive research. Observational or analytical research, on the other hand, is fundamentally different in a way that the researcher has to use facts or information already available and analyze this in order to make a critical evaluation of the material. Experimental or interventional studies are ones where researchers introduce an intervention and study the effect. Experimental studies are usually randomized, meaning the subjects are grouped by chance. A randomized controlled trial, RCT, eligible people are randomly assigned to one of 2 or more groups. So we can see this is the general view or the general concept of the types of research methods according to nature of the study. But we said also we have type of research methods according to the purpose of the study. According to the purpose of the study, are you doing the research to solve the problem? Are you doing the research to expand knowledge or for the knowledge's sake? Or why are you carrying on your research? According to the purpose of the study, types of research method can be divided into 2 categories: applied research and fundamental research. Applied research is also referred to as an action research. Fundamental research is sometimes called basic or pure research. Said, according to the purpose of the study, types of research methods can be divided into categories: applied research and fundamental research. And we say applied research is also referred to as an action research, while fundamental research is sometimes called basic or pure research. Let's go to types of research methods according to research design. On the basis of research design, the type of research method can be divided into 2 groups: exploratory and conclusive. Exploratory and conclusive. Exploratory studies only aim to explore the research area and they do not attempt to offer final and conclusive answers to research questions. Conclusive studies, on the contrary, aim to provide final and conclusive answers to research questions. Let's see the uses and limitation of basic research. But this is the general concept as we see it in section 12 of our course, of our model. We are going to discuss them more in details. But you should have the concept of what research is according to the nature of study, according to the purpose, according to the design, and basically or generally, how are we categorizing the research? If we say this is qualitative, then what does qualitative means? When we say this is quantitative, what does quantitative means? Do all research use qualitative or quantitative methods? Then we come and we see. So take it is uses and limitation of basic research. Basic research, also called pure research or fundamental research, at the scientific research aim to improve scientific theories for improved understanding or prediction of natural or other phenomena. Applied research in turn uses scientific theories to develop technology or techniques to intervene and alter natural or other phenomena. We said basic research, also called pure research or fundamental research, at the scientific research aim to improve scientific theories for improved understanding or prediction of natural or other phenomena. Applied research in turn uses scientific theories to develop technology or techniques to intervene and alter natural or other phenomena. Though often driven by curiosity, basic research fuels applied sciences innovations. Limitations. Fundamental research, also known as a basic research or pure research, does not usually generate findings that have immediate application in the practical level. Fundamental research is driven by curiosity and desire to expand knowledge in specific research area. For example, you are in school, you do your bachelor degree in medicine or in whatsoever course. At the end of your studies, then you should do, or you should write about your research paper. Choose the topic of interest and do something there. But what are the aim of this? What are the purpose of this? You know, you do this purposely for expanding knowledge. You might have done something which is valuable in future when it is carried on. It may solve a certain problem somewhere. But the basic purpose, it has done to expand the knowledge. Uses and limitation of applied or operational research. Operational research is discipline that deals with the application of advanced analytical methods to help make better decisions. Operations research or operational research is discipline that deals with the application of advanced analytical methods to help make better decisions. Applied science is the use of scientific processes and knowledge as the means to achieve a particular practical or useful result. Use their knowledge and skills in creative ways to solve complex problems and have an impact on critical decisions. Limitation, it is costly. Operational research is very costly. This is because operational research makes a mathematical model for taking decisions and solving problems. When we talk of operational research or operational research, however, we have seen so many researches which have been done to solve a certain problem. What I said, the researchers have discovered ABCD to solve a certain problem, which is community, scientific, or any other, and this is operational research of fundamental art or applied science. So they use their knowledge and skills in creative ways to solve complex problems and have an impact on critical decisions. Limitation research is costly. Operational research is very costly. This is because operational research makes mathematics a model for taking decisions solving problems. Not realistic. Operational research experts make very complex model for solving problems. This model may not be realistic. It is also very complex. Operational research is very complex concept. Uses a limitation of quantitative research. Quantitative research provides statistical, mathematical, or numerical results. Tend to analyze phenomena in terms of trends and frequencies. Limitations. Research quality is heavily dependent on the individual skills of the researcher and more easily influenced by a researcher's personal bias and idiosyncrasies. Rigor is more difficult to maintain, assess, and demonstrate. Uses and limitation of qualitative research. To find ways to improve such things as customer satisfaction as professionals, it aims to develop concepts that aid in the understanding of natural phenomena, with the emphasis on the meaning, experience, and views of the students. Limitation. Because quantitative research focuses on quantifying a given phenomena, not why or how it has occurred, it doesn't really shed light on the human experience attached to that phenomena. Uses a limitation of exploratory studies. An exploratory study is a small-scale study of relative short duration, which is carried out when a little is known about a situation or problem. It may include a description as well as comparison. Limitation used for small-scale studies gathers information about unfamiliar phenomena. Results give insight to a problem before a larger-scale study is designed. Uses and limitation of descriptive studies. And before, let me explain a little bit and uses and limitation of exploratory studies. For example, a problem happened, first you have to analyze what has happened, what the causatives and what, and then it's from there you start your research and design your research to get the result. Design your research methodology and research methods. Why do you want to conduct that result? But at first, you have to explain the problem, and they should have a guess why the problem is happening. So exploratory studies is all about that. Is a small scale study of relative short duration, which is carried out when a lead is known about a situation or problem. It will include description as well as comparison. Then let's go to limitation of descriptive studies. Descriptive study involves describing the characteristics of a particular situation, event, or case, can be carried out on a small or larger scale limitation. Only describing or describe phenomena, example, person, place, and time. No analysis of determinant or association, example, cross-sectional, descriptive. Uses a limitation of comparative or analytical studies. An analytical study attempts to establish causes or risk factor for certain problems. This is done by comparing two or more groups, some of which have or developed the problem and some of which have not. You can see as an example which I gave in quantitative research, I said maybe something has happened and you see which group has been affected more comparing to other groups. That's why I try to compare like 3 groups in the same way to get the picture of why do we compare this. So it uses cross-sectional comparative studies, case control studies, and cohort studies. It uses cross-sectional comparative studies, case control studies, and cohort studies. Let's see what's cross-sectional comparative studies. Aim at describing phenomena and compare groups or determine factors influencing the phenomena. Done at one point in time. Measurement of exposure and effect are done at the same time. Quick and cheap. Can elucidate various exposures as first step in investigating cause. Repeated measure can depict a trend. Produce data useful in assessing healthcare needs. Limitation. Not possible to determine if the exposure preceded the outcome. Temporal relationship. Not possible to determine if the exposure preceded the outcome. Temporal relationship. Let's see what a case control studies is all about. A case control study, the investigator compares one group among whom the problem that he wishes to investigate is present, example, nutrition, and another group called a control or comparison group where the problem is absent, in order to find out what factors have contributed to the problem. Useful for generating test hypothesis. Cheap and quick. Make use of comparison or control group. Can start more than one risk factor. Used for a disease or long latent period. We say this is an overview of types of research. So when we say thesis, we're going to see what hypothesis is and how to form an hypothesis. So it should not be a problem for you in this session, because as we go, you're going to understand what thesis is. Can you make the thesis on your own? Can you write something? If you discover something and you know the research design, the purpose of doing your research and whatsoever, can you derive hypothesis for your own? We gotta see. So it should not be a problem at all. A limitation. Data on exposure might be inaccurate and biased. Difficult to make precise selection of control group. Retrospective. Cannot separate cause and effect. Cannot be used for exposure. You cannot calculate incident. You cannot calculate incident. You do not know when disease occurred. Then let's see the cohort studies. In cohort studies, a group of individuals that is exposed to a risk factor or a study group is compared to a group of individuals not exposed to the risk factor. Control, we call it control group. Aim at determining risk factor for disease or outcome. At the start, identify two groups with exposure to a risk factor, exposed, or without exposure, we call them non-exposed. Both groups have not developed the disease outcome at the start. Follow over the time. At the end, analyzes disease outcome, occurrence of both groups and compare. Limitation: need to get complete and accurate information about exposure and outcome for all individuals. Time consuming, expensive, inefficient in evaluating rare diseases, loss of follow-up, affected validity of the result. Uses and limitation of descriptive studies. A descriptive study involves describing the characteristics of a particular situation, event, or case, can be carried out on a small or large scale. Limitation: only describe phenomena, example person plus time. No analysis of determinant, association, example cross-section. Descriptive. Appropriate start type for the research proposal. Let's see appropriate start type for the research proposal. Depending on the existing state of the knowledge about the problem that is being studied, different types of questions may be asked, which require different start design. Some examples given in the following. This is what we have said for example, in a start of knowledge of the problem. For example, knowing that a problem exists but knowing little about its characteristics or possible causes. Something may come into your mind and ask some few questions by yourself. What is the nature or magnitude of the problem? Just wanted to know the nature and the magnitude of the problem. Who is affected? How do the affected people behave? What do they know, believe, and think about the problem and its causes? Now, it's from there, from the question that you ask, it will make you to be able to design the type of a study. First, exploratory study or descriptive studies. Then descriptive case study or cross-sectional survey. Because actually you've seen something happening but you don't know. But first you have to from your question, for you to get answers of your question, you should design, you should use this type of study. Exploratory studies or descriptive studies, descriptive case studies, or cross-sectional survey. Let's see the second state of knowledge of the problem. For example, suspecting that certain factor contributing to the problem. Some questions also may rise into your mind. A certain factor indeed associated with the problem. Is lack of, for example, is lack of preschool education related to low school performance? Is low fiber diet related to carcinoma of the large intestine? Now, when it comes to the type of study, you have seen the state of knowledge of the problem, suspecting that certain factor contributing to the problem, and the problem is the large intestine, for example, the large intestine in carcinoma, and to think a certain factor is indeed associated with the problem. Now, analytical or comparative studies, cross-sectional comparative studies, case control studies, cohort studies. When you take a little example in cohort studies, we said you take individuals who are exposed to the risk factor and some who are not exposed to the risk factor. Then you compare. We have seen in analytical comparative studies what we do. Cross-sectional comparative studies what we do. And the case control studies, we know what we do. You know? So the questions that comes into your mind after seeing the problem is what give you the research design. Another is having established that certain factor associated with the problem, desiring to establish the extent to which a particular factor cause or contribute to the problem. For example, what is the cause of the problem? Will the removal of a particular factor prevent or reduce the problem? Examples: stopping smoking, providing safe water. Then you come into your study design. It can be cohort studies, experimental or quasi-experimental studies, as we have seen according to what they do, So we come back, or we go back to the concept, and we're going to realize it when we say the types of research. It can be according to research design, purpose. Are we getting? Oh, I think we still remember the concept. And that slide which I've tried to explain the category and the research types. Uh, Another one is having sufficient knowledge about causes to develop and assess an intervention which would prevent, control, solve the problem. What is the effect of a particular intervention or strategy? Example, treated with a particular drug, being exposed to a certain type of health education. Which of two alternate strategies give a better result? Which strategy is most cost effective? Experiment or quasi-experimental studies? The type of study chosen depend on the type of the problem, the knowledge already available about the problem, resources available for the study. We can see the type of the study chosen depend on the type of the problem, the knowledge already available about the problem, and resources available for the study. So, when investigating health management problems such as overcrowding in hospital or patient department, or shortage of drug at PSC level, a good description of the problem and identification of major contributing factor often provide enough information to take action. When exploring more complicated management or health problems, we usually want to go further and determine the extent to which one or several independent variables contribute to the problem. For example, the contribution of low fiber diet to cancer of the large intestine. For this type of problem, more rigorous analytical experimental studies will have to be conducted before we decide on appropriate intervention. Let's see the key points. The study type most used in research include basic research, applied research, quantitative research, and qualitative research. Depending on the existing state of knowledge about a problem that is being studied, different type of questions may be asked which require different study design. Evolution, what are the standard types used in research? What are the standard types used in research? What are the uses and limitation of cohort study? I think this is the general concept of what we should carry so far, and I think all of us we know